Jamaica's Finance Minister Audley Shaw says the country's net international reserves, NIR, is in a fairly good state. According to Shaw, at the end of March 2016, the NIR stood at US $2.4 billion.
The net international reserves at the end of March of this year was US $2.4 billion compared with US $2 billion at the end of March last year. This was above the target set under the EFF supported program. And gross reserves, Mr. Speaker, stood at March 2016, that is foreign exchange reserves, at US $2.9 billion or 21.5 weeks of goods and services imports.
And the Finance Minister is bemoaning the high interest rates charged by commercial banks. The latest data shows that commercial banks are imposing an interest rate of 16.67% on loans. Mr. Shaw says while the central bank has made adjustments to its loan portfolio, the interest rates of commercial banks are still too high. He says the rates pose a challenge for small businesses and consumers.
The Bank of Jamaica has reduced interest rates on its benchmark 30-day certificate of deposits by 50 basis points. The bank has also narrowed the interest rate spread between its deposit and its lending facilities by 200 basis points over that period and transitioned to auctioning its 14-day repo facility. The benchmark 180-day Treasury bill rate fell to 5.83% in March 2016, a decline of 117 basis points since March 2015. In April 2016 auction, the rate also recorded a further decline to 5.82%. Mr. Speaker, the weighted average lending rates on domestic currency commercial bank loans declined by 43 basis points to 16.67% in March relative to March 2016 relative to the previous year. This measure incorporates all existing loans. I must say, however, Mr. Speaker, that at 16.67%, interest rates in commercial banks are still too high. Interest rates at that level, as an average, militate against growth. We must find ways to make loan funds more affordable to businesses and consumers.
Meanwhile, the Jamaican Finance Minister says the government will be aggressively pursuing growth during its tenure in office. Mr. Shaw says Jamaica has been repeatedly characterized among the developing countries with the slowest growth rates. He pointed to the latest World Bank report on the island that made similar reference.
The World Bank stated, and I quote, "For decades, Jamaica has struggled with low growth, high public debt, and many external shocks that further weakened the economy. Over the last 30 years, real per capita GDP increased at an average of just 1% per year, making Jamaica one of the slowest growing developing countries in the world." One of the slowest growing developing countries in the world, end of quote.